Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Ayetoro town, there was a man named Tayo. He was famous not for his wisdom or fairness, but for his wickedness and greed. The people of Ayetoro town lived in constant fear of their king, who ruled with an iron fist and showed no mercy to those who opposed him. He imposed heavy taxes on the poor, seizing lands from the farmers and imprisoning anyone who dares to speak against him. Under his rule, the kingdom fell into barrenness. The kingdom that was once prosperous now had barren lands and its people suffering. Oba Adetayo surrounded himself with wealth and luxury, building grand palaces and holding extravagant feasts while his subjects starved. He took pleasure in the suffering of others, and his court was filled with flatterers who praised him in hopes of gaining favor from him. The more power the king amassed, the more his wickedness grew. One of his most shocking acts was to desecrate the sacred forest of Olorun, where the kingdom's life-giving stream flowed from the mountains. The stream was believed to be a divine gift, nourishing the land, allowing crops to grow, and supporting wildlife. For generations, the people of Ayetoro honored the stream with rituals and offering, knowing it was the source of their prosperity. However, Oba Adetayo, in his arrogance, dismissed the old belief. He mocked the gods and declared that the stream and forest were his to control. One day, he commanded his soldiers to cut down the sacred tree and use the wood to build new palace. The priests warned him that violating the sacred forest would bring divine wrath, but the king laughed off their warnings. Ignoring the cries of his people, Obaditayo had drained the stream, diverting the water to fill his artificial lake in his palace. The farmers watched in horror as their field dried up and the once lush forest withered. But the king cared only for his own pleasures, indifferent of the suffering he had caused. The people of Ayetoro pleaded with the gods for help, but their prayers seemed unanswered. The sky stayed clear and no rain fell to revive the land. The kingdom was slowly dying and the hopelessness hung over the people like a heavy blanket. Little did Obadetayo know the gods had been watching, and their patience was wearing thin. The desecration of the sacred stream and the king's ongoing evil acts had reached the point where they could no longer be ignored. The gods decided that it was time to punish the wicked king and show him the consequences of his greed and wickedness. The gods made his only son to sacrifice himself for the kingdom, and the king, his father, could not do anything to stop the sacrifice. After he had sacrificed himself, the gods then sent down rain and allowed the land flourish again. With the return of light and sacred stream flowing once again, the kingdom of Ayetoro began its slow but hopeful recovery. The once barren land gradually regained its fertility. Crops that had withered under the prolonged darkness grew again, and the people, once weakened by hunger, found strength and renewed hope. The night that had cast a shadow over their life was replaced by a brilliant sunrise, signaling the promise of better days ahead. Yet, as the kingdom flourished, Obadetayo's heart remained covered in darkness. The sacrifice of his only son, Prince Oluwafemi, had restored the land, but it came at an unbearable cost. The king was in grief, and despite the people's celebration of the kingdom's revival, Obadetayo was consumed by the sorrow of his loss. In the days that followed, Obadetayo retreated from public view, isolating himself in his chamber. The once feared and powerful ruler now spent hours in solitude, staring at the throne that his son would never inherit. The palace, once a symbol of authority and wickedness, became a place of haunting memories. Every corner echoed with reflection of his son's laughter, and the empty throne was a constant reminder of the future that had been lost. The people of Ayetoro, unaware of the king's death torment, honored Prince Oluwafemi with statues and song. The prince was celebrated as a hero, a symbol of selflessness and love, who had sacrificed his life to save the kingdom. The villagers, grateful for the restoration of their land, spoke of Oluwafemi and admired him. But Obaditayo could not escape the guilt that had beat at him. The king's grief was profound, and no amount of celebration could ease the pain of losing his only son. His previous arrogance and wickedness seems like a distant memory, overshadowed by his current sorrow. One evening, unable to endure his grief any longer, Obaditayo summoned the priests to his chamber. They arrived, their faces solemn, having witnessed the king's decline from a wicked king to a man burdened by his own suffering. "I have wronged the gods," the king confessed, his voice broken and shaken. "I have wronged my people, and I have wronged my son. My greed and wickedness brought ruin to this kingdom and to my family, but I do not know how to find redemption. How can I live with this guilt of what I have done?" The priests, who had long feared the king's wrath, now saw before them a man seeking atonement. They understood that while the gods had already demanded their punishment, Obaditayo needed more than survival. He sought redemption for the sins that had cost him his son. The head priest stepped forward, his voice calm and filled with wisdom, saying, "Obaditayo, the gods have punished you, but they have also given you a chance to restore balance. Your son sacrificed saved the kingdom, but you are still alive. You must now use your remaining life to serve the people who you once oppressed. Only through humility and service can begin to heal the wound you have caused." The king listened, his heart heavy with the truth in the priest's words. He knew that no amount of wealth or power could bring back his son, but perhaps by dedicating his life to serving the kingdom, he could find some measure of peace. The following day, Obaditayo made a public declaration before the people of Ayetoro, standing in the step of the palace. His once proud form now bowed by grief. He spoke with a voice filled with sincerity and humility. "My people," he began, "I have wronged you in the way that cannot be done. My greed and wickedness has brought suffering to this land, and for that I am deeply sorry. My son, Prince Oluwafemi, gave his life to restore what I have destroyed. It is because of him that we now stand in light, with water flowing once more through our land. I cannot bring him back, but I can honor his memory by dedicating the rest of my life to serving you." The villagers, who had once feared and hated their king, listened in silence. They had never seen such humility and regret from Oba Adetayo. His words, though filled with sorrow, carried a deep truth, and gradually murmuring of acceptance began to ripple through the crowd. From that day forward, Obadetayo set about atoning for his sins. He dismantles the oppressive taxes he had once imposed. returning wealth and land to those he had wronged. He worked alongside the farmers to rebuild the field destroyed by the drought, and he listened to the villagers' concerns, offering guidance and support. His court, once filled with hatred, transformed into a place where the needs of the kingdom came before personal desires. Though the people of Ayetoro began to see their king in a new light, known now for his humility and service, the scars of his past remained. Obadetayo never forgot the cost of his redemption. He often visits the statue of Prince Oluwafemi in the village square, kneeling in silent prayers. As years passed, the kingdom of Ayetoro, once covered in darkness, now in the light of prosperity. The land, renewed under the rule of Obadetayo, flourished. The once dried stream flowed with crystal clear water, nurturing the field, forest, and the village. The people who had endured heavy taxes and wickedness now live in peace. Their king, transformed from a wicked into a humble servant, became a symbol of redemption and sacrifice. Despite the kingdom's renewal, Obadetayo's heart remained burdened. He had found redemption in the heights of his people, but the weight of his son's sacrifice still lingered heavily upon him. Every day he visits the statue of Prince Oluwafemi in the village square, a constant reminder of the young man who had given everything to save the kingdom. For the people, the statue was a tribute to their hero. For Obadetayo, it was a testament to the price of his own failures. Though King Adetayo had changed, the memory of his past wickedness never far from his mind. He had rebuilt the kingdom, returned lands and wealth to his people, and led them with compassion. But the grief of losing his only son persisted. The priests, witnessing the king's struggle, counseled him to find peace, reminding him that his son had willingly made the ultimate sacrifice. But Oba Adetayo, now a man of deep reflection, understood that true peace could not come without confronting the full legacy of his actions. During the annual festival honoring Prince Oluwafemi, Oba Adetayo made a decision that would forever shape the future of the kingdom. He gathered the people of Ayetoro in the village square, standing before the statue of his son as they looked in quiet anticipation. "My people," he began, his voice clear yet filled with emotion. "We gather here today to honor the memory of my son, Prince Oluwafemi, who gave his life so our land might be restored. His sacrifice was a gift to us all, and it is because of him that we stand here today in the light, with our land flourishing once more." The crowd nodded in agreement, their faces reflecting admiration for the prince whose memory they held dearly. Oba Adetayo continued, "I cannot deny that his sacrifice was a result of my own greed and wickedness. I was once a king who cared only for power and wealth, and it was my action that brought this village to the brink of destruction. I have spent years trying to atone for my sins, but no amount of work can bring back what I have lost. The pain of losing my son will remain with me for the rest of my life." The people listened in silence. Many were moved by the king's weakness and deep regret. "I have come to understand," the king said, "that redemption is not mere about restoring what was lost, but about creating something new, something that honors the past while ensuring a better future. My son's legacy must live on, not just in status or story, but in the way we live and govern." With that, Oba Adetayo made an announcement that stunned the entire kingdom. "I hereby renounce the throne," he declared, his voice steady and resolved. "I will step down as the king and appoint a council of elders chosen by the people to lead the kingdom in my place. It is time for Ayetoro to be governed by those who represent the heart and soul of the people, not by a single leader." The crowd were in shock of what they were hearing. For generations, Ayetoro had been ruled by kings, and the idea of a king voluntarily stepping down was never seen or heard. Yet they looked at Obadetayo. What they saw was not weakness, but a man who had found strength to let go of the power that had once consumed him. The priests, elders, and villagers exchanged looks, uncertain about this new governance, but hopeful that this change, born from the king's desire for true redemption, might lead a brighter future of Ayetoro. The king continued, "This council will guide Ayetoro with wisdom and compassion, just as my son would have wanted. I will spend the rest of my days serving this kingdom in whatever way I can, but I will no longer rule as your king. My son's sacrifice must lead to something greater than one man's redemption. It must lead to prosperity of us all." The villagers, who were initially unsure, began to cheer. They understood that Obadetayo's decision was an act of humility and a genuine acknowledgement of the responsibilities that came with power. For the first time, the kingdom was governed by the collective will of its people, and they believed this change would honor Prince Oluwafemi's memory in most meaningful way. Shortly, the Council of Elders was established, and Ayetoro entered a new era of peace and prosperity. The council, chosen by the people, ensured that the kingdom's needs were met with fairness and wisdom. Obadetayo, now a servant of the land, worked alongside with his people, rebuilding and nurturing the field he had once destroyed. As the years went by, the people of Ayetoro spoke of Obadetayo not as the wicked king of the past, but as a man who had found redemption through sacrifice. His only son's legacy lived on, not only in the statue in the village square, but in the hearts of the people who now governed their own destiny. Oba Adetayo, though forever marked by the grief, found peace in knowing his son's sacrifice had led to a lasting change. The kingdom's darkness had been replaced by light, hope, and a future guided by collective wisdom rather than individual power. The kingdom of Ayetoro stands as a testament to the power of redemption, sacrifice, and transformation. Prince Oluwafemi's legacy lived on in the hearts of the people, and Obadetayo, once a symbol of wickedness, became a symbol of humility and change. The kingdom that was once ruled by fear now thrived under the collective wisdom of its people, ensuring that the lessons of their past are never forgotten.